Good afternoon, viewers at home. My name is Bio-Edutainment, the team leader of Omega Bio-Edutainment. We are here once again to talk about our focus for the examination. Don't forget that we have series of video already dedicated for this course, Advanced Toxicology, in some of the normal video we had. So this evening, just like I said, is going to be on examination focus. What are we supposed to expect in this course? We are going to expect introduction to advanced toxicology. Okay. After that, we had some video which were dedicated for dose response relationship. Okay. There will be a focus on dose response relationship. After which, we are going to have another focus on mechanisms of toxicity. Okay. This is going to be number 1, 2, 3, 4. Basically, intentionally, I just made it to be just 7. So the 4th one is going to be organ specific toxicity. Number 5, we are going to this is going to be on toxicokinases and toxicodynamics. Okay, I think we had like 3 videos for this. After that, we also center our discussion on mutation, the role played by toxicology on mutation and genetic disorders. Okay. Then the last but not the least is going to be toxicological testing. So this is the only aspect of our focus that has not been granted any form of discussion, okay, in any of our videos so far. So we need to take note of that. Thereafter, you should, just like I said, we should actually expect us to focus on what is expected of us during the examination hall. Now, during the examination. Now, let's start picking them one after the other. Don't forget that this course is advanced toxicology. Okay, so that's why we center our discussion. We want to assume that we are already used to the basic introduction on toxicology. That is introduction to toxicology. So you are expected. So if you are given any question on the first one, which is introduction to toxicology, the following will come out: the scope of toxicology, toxicology generally, concepts, major concepts. These are basic terms and terminologies in toxicology. Okay, the concepts of toxicology. Why are toxin regarded as poison? So the science, or why is toxicology being regarded as the science of toxin? After that, we want to expect that you should be able to mention basic challenges. After you must have talked about the scope or branches of advanced toxicology, you should be able to tell us some of the challenges and the future of toxicology, especially advanced toxicology. So it is expected that all these will either attract nothing less than 25 marks, or between 20 and 25 marks anyway. But you should just make sure that you don't need to write too lengthy notes. No, just tell us basically, give us a succinct discussion on it, very precise discussion on it. So which I want to believe that before you be able to discuss these four, you'll be able to tell us that already you know what you want to say in the exam. Okay. Now, okay. Now, you should, under these branches of this, don't forget that we are focusing on environmental toxicology, on environmental toxicology. So, and it's public health application, or is public health relevance. So you should be able to dedicate part of this. Okay. Now, let's go straight to the second aspect, which has to do with dose-response relationship. So this is another very important aspect of advanced toxicology that you need to know what that is actually standing for. Now, the dose-response relationship is the aspect that has to do with you trying to know what role does dose play in what. So that is, if somebody mistakenly or accidentally swallow a toxin or a poison, so what are going to be the effects of that kind of dose on the cell? Okay, so he's actually talking about, you should be able to tell us the dose, importance of dose, and how will the body, our system, be able to respond to this. That is very, very important. Don't forget that those relationships, just like I said, refer to relationship between the actual amounts. This is talking about the actual amounts of the. Okay, I think you should be through with the first part. So let's try and look at what the second aspect is going to be. That is DRR. So DRR, this is number 2. That's dose response relationship. You should be able to tell us, talk about the definition. Just like I said, that refers to the relationship between the amount of poison taken and what will be the effect on the overall body. Okay. So then the next thing is, you should be able to tell us the importance. Why do we have to devote some of these our educational video to dose response relationship, or as an advanced toxicologist, why must we be so concerned about dose response relationship? So what will be the importance? So don't forget that it is going to help us to be able to determine the exposure level for human. What are the tolerable exposure level of human as well as is animal? Then it's going to help us to be able to determine what could be the regulatory standard for inhalation or of toxin. Okay, so after that, I want you to also mention different types of different types of DRR, to be able to tell us about that. DRR cough in particular, I think I also made mention of that. There are 4. The first one is a linear dose response cough. Okay, on what condition can we have this kind of cough? Then 2, the threshold dose response cough. After that, the sigmoid, that is S-shape, the sigmoid shape, as well as the last one, which has to do with non-linear. So I want you to really go back into those videos that were dedicated for these aspects, so that you'll be able to have correct and detailed glimpse of what you need to do. Then I want you to cap it up with the concepts. What are the basic concepts of regulatory bodies? So why must we have some bodies or agencies that must be in charge of regulating the amount or the dose that must be taken? Okay, so by the time we understand this kind of dose relationship, we must have done our home best to be able to determine the tolerable level or the tolerable standard that will not necessarily cause any harm for our body, either for our animal or for us as a human. Okay, so having said that, let's go to the third aspect that has to do with mechanism of toxicity. What are the mechanisms of toxicity? Okay, so mechanisms of toxicity. So the first aspect is that you need to understand what do we mean by direct cellular injury. This was a point where we mentioned, I think we dedicated about 3 videos for this. Direct cellular injury. This is when the injury or the toxin is affecting the organism at the cellular, thereby causing disruption of either protein synthesis, DNA replication, and other processes at that level. Then you need to talk about what are the mechanisms of oxidative stress. Okay, at what point can we say that a toxin is going to have an effect on oxidative stress, and that is especially what is going to help us, what is going to lead to damage in the lipid level, protein, and sometimes it can also lead to dysfunctioning of certain processes or activities of the cell. Then the third aspect, which has to do with how do poison interference, how do they interfere with metabolic pathways, different pathways that we have in the body. Metabolic pathway, all these metabolic pathways, you should not forget them. These are pathways that are very, very essential to the maintenance of livelihood of an individual. So how do poison interact or interfere with some metabolic pathway? For example, if you just pick alcohol, for example, how would alcohol be able to interfere with the metabolic pathway of the liver? You should be able to pick some of these organs as a kind of a target for all these poison. Okay, then you should be able to talk about the mechanism of toxicity by determining the genotoxic effect. So what are the likelihood or the potential genotoxic effects is going to have on the next generation? That is, you should be able to tell us about that. How does toxin directly cause mutation? How does it lead to genetic disorder? And that's why we have an important aspect that has to do with mutation and genetic disorder. So you should be able to trace poison to their effect leading to mutation and also genetic disorder of all this. Okay, now this is just on A. This second aspect that you need to focus on is you should be able to emphasize the role of ROS, that is reductive or radicals, the role played by radical oxidative stress. Okay, so you should be able to tell us the role of ROS and free radicals like ozone and hydrogen peroxide or peroxide. Okay, you should be able to tell us that. Then lastly, I want you to focus on the genotoxic or the genetic factors that may tend to determine how the effects, genetic factors which determine the overall effects of toxins or poisons. Okay, so you should be able to do that. If you look at the materials given to you, you just discover that you just have all these topics as number 1 to 6. So make sure you focus on all this. Then the next one is to look at the organ-specific toxicity. That is, how would some poison or toxin, how would they target some of the organs in the body? So don't forget that part of the organs in the body, we have the heart, we have the blood flow, we have some enzymes, we have liver, we have how some of these, including, don't forget that toxins sometimes drugs can be regarded as toxins sometimes, as well as water, depending on the dosage and the route of administration. So you should know that so that we won't waste time on that. Now let's go to number 5, which is part of, well, let me just say the key aspects in this course: toxicokinesis and toxicodynamics. I told you that toxicokinesis is a measure of the journey of any poison right away from the point at which it is being ingested to the last point where it is going to exert its function. And this is the level. I think we have like 3 videos that were dedicated for this topic. So that means, how do we want to measure, we want to know what happens in a case whereby a poison is being ingested through the skin. It could be derma, the root. That is why route of exposure is very, very important in measuring the journey of a poison right away from the point at which it is being inhaled to the last point. And don't forget that every poison will have its own target organ. So that is a toxicodynamics. So it is very, very important that toxicokinesis. So if you want to measure the journey, that will start from, don't forget these acronyms: ADME. A is standing for absorption, D is standing for what? Distribution, M is standing for metabolism, and E is standing for excretion. So at every point in time, whenever a toxin is being ingested, let's say through inhalation, so it will start, the system will begin to absorb into it, and the next thing is going to be that so it is going to be absorbed into the bloodstream. So when it now gets into the bloodstream, since it is circulatory activities, so that is going to make the toxin to be able to get circulated into all major parts of the body through the bloodstream. So that is that. So we need to know that. Then metabolism. Every poison or every toxin, whenever you swallow it, whenever you inhale, you ingest it, it is going to be in a very active form. So for example, if you are swallowing benzene, for example now, so that benzene, for it to be regarded as a poison, that means you must swallow it in their active form or in their active state. So by the time it now starts to get in through the esophagus, down into the bloodstream, and before the bloodstream will now get it circulated, it will be metabolized, it will be converted into that active form, from that active form into the inactive form. That is that. So, and that is the measurement of how this compound benzene will be broken down by the action of liver, which is going to be the target organ for such toxin or poison. Okay, that is at the level of metabolism, and whatever we are able to ingest, it must be excreted. If poison is not being excreted, that means it's going to do a lot of damage. And even if it has done a lot of damage, the level, so if it stops at this level, that means you can be readily assured that that kind of poison is not going to enter into the last phase, which is excretion, and that is what is going to concern our skin. It's going to involve the skin as well as the kidney, making it to get being excreted or removal of all these toxic waste from the body. Okay, so and I said Toxicodynamics, it will describe the effects. So what are going to be the effects? Toxicokinesis has to do with measuring the journey from the starting point to the point at which this is going to end its own journey. Okay, so having said that, the next thing is to know what is called toxicodynamics, and that is nothing but to tell us the overall effect. What is going to be the overall effect of that poison on the target organ? So you have to make sure you fall back into some of our videos on that. So then the next thing is mutation and genetic disorder. Don't forget, I told you that in cancer, mutation is always the first stage of any cancer. So, and mutation will only start with the effect of that poison at the genetic level, that is targeting the DNA. So if there is it could be replacement in form of insertion, deletion, or substitution of just one nucleotide at that level of mutation, and accumulation of that mutational changes is going to lead into different genetic disorder. And when we talk about genetic disorder, we are talking about a lot of very, very important things that we should be able to make sure we get ourselves to be okay. So we look at the major effects of poison in mutation, as well as making it so sure that it has its effects at the so. And you need to tell us what are the molecular basis of this mutation, at what point. I told you the different types of mutation, origin of mutation. You mentioned missense, you should be able to remember nonsense, as well as a frame shift, and you should be able to give us typical examples, typical molecular examples of what is mutation, and you should be able to relate them to genetic disorder. And when we look at genetic disorder, we are linking already. That means we are linking the environmental factors. We are linking them with what is going to be the effect, genetic effect on that, and that's going to lead us to a lot. You should be able to cite example of mutation like sickle cell anemia. I also mentioned a case of trisomy X. Trisomy X, where we have instead of 2 chromosome 21, we have a case of 3 chromosome, and that is what is known as trisomy. So you should be able to tell us about that. That is the condition that is known and regarded as Down syndrome. You should be able to also mention cradle charts. So when somebody that have this kind of chromosomal aberration or chromosomal abnormalities, they will just be crying like a baby. So you'll be able to tell us more this clinical significance or clinical manifestation, diagnosis, as well as other things that has to do with that. Okay, then it is also at this level one thing that is very common. I think I cited case studies of all these case study. In each case, missense, I gave you example of missense. So, but in children, don't forget, lead intoxication is very, very important. I want you to make make reference to that. And whenever you now have genetic disorder, that means that mutational changes has now become almost permanent. So I want you to really take your time and be able to say something about that. Now, the last aspect this last aspect that has to do with toxicological testing. That is, how can you test the effect of any poison? You don't need to, if you want to know how poisonous a chemical is, so you don't have to start from maybe you ask somebody, human being, to swallow it. That means you are going to do more of in vivo testing. That is a in vivo testing method. So we should be able to talk about that, and in vitro as well. In vitro testing as well. In vivo and in vitro testing. So please, you should be able to tell us that. Apart from that, what are the ethical considerations? What are the ethical considerations that must be taken? For example, when you are talking of in vivo has to do with when you want to look at the effect maybe on bacterial cell or bacterial colony. That is in vivo. Then the in vitro is when you make laboratory animals like rats. I remember some of my students sometimes ago, they evaluated the effects, both genotoxic effects, okay, as well as histological effects, hematological effects of certain chemicals of all these energy drinks on rats, and they were able to come up with this. So I'm expecting you to also know, you should be able to design an experiment that is going to help you to be able to monitor the toxicological testing in vivo as well as in vitro, that is rats. Then you should be able to mention the ethical consideration. So you don't have to say that because you are dealing with laboratory animal, that you just have to maybe slaughter them anyhow. So you need to take care of their ethical consideration. For example, you should be able to standardize all your procedures, including even making their cages. Before you be able to, it's not that when you get the laboratory animal, immediately you just start dosing them. No, you have to acclimatize them for how many days? So that at the end of the day, so you need to deal with all these ethical considerations in all your if you want to answer any question on toxicological studies. Okay, so part of what is very, very important in them is that you need to be you need to take care of their welfare, the welfare of the animals, whenever you want to test any substance. You want to look at the effect of any substance on them. You don't say that because they are animal you can just treat them anyhow. Okay, then you need to follow the 3R ratio, 3R rules, and this 3R is standing for replacement, reduction, and refinement. Replacement, reduction, and refinement, which is going to guide you as a researcher, so that you'll be able to have you'll be able to minimize risk. Don't forget that part of the ethical consideration should be that how can you minimize the risk of exposing your animals or dosing your animals with any substance at all. That is very, very important. So that is that. Okay, now summarily, what we have been able to do today is just to give you the idea where are those points that you should focus in some of the videos that you already have on Omega Bio-Edutainment. So you need to see that. I've just told you that you should focus on at least 7 important points. So the introduction to advanced toxicology. Not only that, all the 7 points that I've just mentioned, you should be able to focus on them. Okay, so it is on that note that I want to really end this video. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and if there is any feedback, just let us know in the comment section. Okay, so don't forget to subscribe. So for some of you that have not really subscribed, hit the notification button so that whenever we have any educational section or we release any video, you'll be able to know that. Okay, so thank you.